What's up everyone, and today I'm bringing a deck profile on my Exosister. Now Exosister is a pretty cool deck. It's sort of like a retrain of Zodiacs, whereas Zodiacs is someone themselves only using one monster. Exosisters can kind of do the same thing but in a bit of a weaker way. But it's a fun deck, and without further ado, let's get right into it. First, I run 3 copies of Martha. Now Martha, if you control no monsters or only XYZ monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, special summon one Exosister Ellis from your deck. So this will walk you into Exosister monsters, which is pretty much okay because most oftentimes what you're going to be summoning is Exosister monsters. And it has a secondary effect where if a card in your opponent's graveyard is moved out of the graveyard, you can special summon one XYZ monster, one Exosister XYZ monster from your extra deck using this card as material. Now all the Exosisters have that effect. So if you're going against a Grave Reliant deck, then Exosisters becomes a pretty good deck. Next, I run 3 copies of the Ellis. Ellis, if you control an Exosister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you control Stella, you gain 800 life points, which we also run 3 of. Stella during your main phase allows you to special summon an Exosister monster from your hand. Then if you control Irene, if you control Ellis, you gain 800 life points. Also run 3 copies of Sophia. Sophia, if you happen to control Exosister Irene, you can draw 1 card. And then also run 1 copy of the Exosister Irene. Irene is the weakest of the Exosister monsters. You can place 1 Exosister card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to draw 1 card. Which sounds nice, but most oftentimes you're not really going to want to use that effect. It's more so to get a draw off of Sophia. I guess if you have an extra Exosister in your hand, which is very unlikely, because all of them can special summon themselves or another Exosister except for Irene and Sophia. Next, I run a bunch of hand traps like 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Ogre, and 2 Veiler. I'd say another option is also Artifact Lancia. Moving on to the spells. We run 3 copies of Exosister packs. I really like they're giving like all these different archetypes like high rarity cards, which is really nice, although Exosister already had CRs, but I like these better. During the main phase, you can pay 100 life points to add 1 Exosister card from your deck to your hand, except packs. Then if you added a monster by this effect, you can special summon it if the other Exosister monster mentioned on its name is on your field or in your graveyard. So for example, let's say you have Martha in your graveyard. You can use the effect to special summon Ellis from your deck, essentially. So instead of Rhoda, it becomes someone from the deck, which is pretty cool. Next, I run 3 copies of Exosister Arment. Arment is pretty good, especially if you're going against a deck that's not very Grave Reliant, like talking about current format like Ryziel and Malice. Both those decks aren't Grave Reliant, so you're not really likely to use the Exosister effect to summon from the extra deck. But Arment kind of works around that problem because this allows you to target an Exosister monster control and special summon one Exosister XYZ monster from your extra deck. So that's definitely a nice thing, and it's also a quick play spell, so you can also do that on your opponent's turn. Next, I run 3 Pot of Desires. No longer have Prosperity, so the next best option is Desires. And since we run pretty much 3 of almost everything, we only run 1 Irene, and if Irene gets banished, it's not really the end of the world. I'd say there's really only 1 card we don't want to get banished, but if it does, it doesn't hurt the deck too much. Next, I run 3 copies of Thrust and 2 copies of Talents. The Thrust Talents is a pretty nice thing. Thrust will can search you like Pot of Desires, it can get you into Talents or an Imperm. That's also an option to get you into one of your traps, Returnia, which we do play 1 of. This card is also searchable off of Michaelis, as Michaelis allows you to add a Exosister spell trap. Returnia is pretty cool. It allows you to do the same thing as Arment, but in addition, you can also banish 1 card your opponent controls. So it's like an improved version of Arment. And I also run 3 infinite impermanents. We move to the extra deck. We run 3 copies of Michaelis. Michaelis, when it's Michaelis' turn, it is summoned using an Exosister monster's material. Quick effect: target 1 card your opponent controls, or in their graveyard, banish it. You can also detach 1 material from this card to add 1 Exosister spell trap from your deck to your hand. So it's your spell trap searcher in addition to being able to just banish 1 card on the field. You also run 2 copies of Gabrine. Green is I'd say your second best Exosister. As one is summoned, it becomes a effect Veiler. And additionally, you detach one material from this card. All XYZ monsters gain 800 attack. But you mainly want it for that first effect. And this is actually a factory error green. I don't know if you can see, but if you look on the borders, it's definitely not exactly even. I run one Caspitel. Caspitel, you can detach material from this card to add an Exosister monster from your deck to hand. It's also got a effect to where your opponent cannot, or either can spell summon monsters from the graveyard for the rest of the turn. Also run one Asophiel. Asophiel, you can detach material from this card, target one monster your opponent controls, return to the hand. It's kind of like Michaelis, but a little bit weaker version of Michaelis. Also run two Magnifica. Magnifica is really cool. You can use two of your Exosister XYZ monsters. You can make a second attack during each battle phase and once per turn. It has a quick effect where you detach material from this card to banish one card your opponent controls. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you return one XYZ monster you own attached to this card to the extra deck. That's supposed to summon that monster from the extra deck by using this card you control as material. So basically, let's say you have Michaelis and Gabriel under it. You can give a quick effect, bounce the Michaelis back to the extra deck, resummon the Michaelis on top of the Magnifica. So it becomes like an extra copy of one of your other Exosisters when you run out of materials for it. Next, I run a couple generic rank 4s like Baguska and Abyss Dweller. Also run the Utopic Draco Future and Utopic Future. I actually did that backwards, but also run one Zeus since this is an XYZ based deck. And I run one Link monster in SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is easily just the best Link 2 in the game. Well, that's it for Exosisters. Let me know what do you think of Exosisters. Do you think it's a pretty cool deck? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.